Hello. Today we're interviewing Little Titanic 22, and he is the former Ridgeway governor. As Ridgeway does not exist anymore, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, good evening. Thank you for having me. I am LargeTitanic2. As to whether or not I am still governor, the answer is nobody knows because technically my term was supposed to expire today, but the Senate's term also was supposed to expire, and that didn't happen. So, I don't know.
Right. So as we are on, we have a majority of a Mayflower viewer base. Could you explain some key differences from Mayflower to Ridgeway, and how that affects your position, or that affected your position as governor of Ridgeway?
Um, when it comes to talking about the key differences between you're talking the key differences between the two communities, or
Yeah,
just the situation that Ridgeway is in? Because when it comes to the
specifically the community. We'll get to the situation.
Ridgeway is very similar to Mayflower in how it's set up and how it's run. Unicameral legislature, we have Supreme Court and a Superior Court. I'm not entirely familiar with how NOAA's has been set up differently from the original Mayflower, but we're set up quite similarly to Mayflower. We don't have a state media department. We tried to have that happen, didn't really work out so great. But
Right. So let's get on to the situation in Ridgeway at hand. When did just for some context, we are aware that Ridgeway has been taken down by Roblox. When Roblox took down Ridgeway, what was the immediate reaction by your office?
So the first thing that happened was that essentially that Dio and my office and everybody else, we really didn't want anybody saying too much, because honestly, it's so much of it is still up in the air as to what exactly is going on, that to speculate would almost surely be incorrect as to what actually happened. For example, the majority of people are like, "Oh, Ridgeway had some kind of sex update," and that's completely not true. That's just 100% false, or stuff like just stuff like that that's not right. So I would say the immediate reaction of my office was nothing. We didn't say anything. We didn't do anything because most of us to this day don't know the actual reason or what is actually going on. Everybody's got suspicions. I have my own, but we don't know the true story at the moment of what's actually going on behind the scenes.
Right. So could you describe some of the accomplishments, initiatives under your leadership before the state was quote unquote abolished?
It's been something interesting to note is that it has been almost 2 months now that Ridgeway has been content deleted, so I'm going to have to think back here for a little bit. I've been governor of Ridgeway for over a year now. I was elected governor in November of 2022, and I have been reelected twice to the position. So, over the course of that time, we've seen a lot of we've had a lot of tumultuous times. We've had thick and thin. We've had periods of high activity and low. We've had department heads come and go. One of the biggest things that we focused on was government activity. We worked really hard on holding department heads accountable, because in Ridgeway that it was not a thing that had happened, really. The department heads would get their jobs, they would keep them for a long time, and one of the things that my office focused on a lot was letting them know that they reported to someone and that they were to be held accountable for the stuff that they were doing. So that was a big part of it. We focused on First Amendment and Second Amendment rights a lot. We focused on lowering and prohibiting restrictions on businesses to make sure that there was a friendly environment for them to succeed. I wanted to grow the private sector quite a lot, and those efforts spawned stuff like Pinkerton, and news agencies started to become really popular. The sad part about all that is that it's been months since any of that has had the chance to be active. So if the game were to be turned back on, let's say today, it would take some time for all that to come back, but
Sure. So obviously your administration took a lot of action in terms of, connecting with the community and all of that, especially before the game got shut down. Is there any specific, actions by your office, or like I would say changes that your office implemented that leaves a long left a long lasting effect on the people of Ridgeway? And if so, what do you think made it long lasting? Or yeah.
So whether or not these are positive impacts is up for debate. I would say, but we went to war with Firestone twice, and second time we took you guys along with us, and we had some fun there. Even though Firestone pretty much chickened out of it as soon as we said that, you guys were coming along, that Mayflower was coming along with us to go to war with them. We passed stuff like the Modified Sedition Act, which was basically banning everybody from NUSA, who was in a high-level position, from working for us. We passed stuff like the Gun Rights Act. We passed the Citation Reform Act, major sweeping legislative changes that... So you're talking about community differences earlier. One of the key ones that you have to understand about Ridgeway is that we don't get to have a law change unless DO approves it. So a lot of stuff took a while to get implemented. Stuff like whenever we'd reform the criminal code, which we did fairly often, would take some time to be implemented. We also, during our term, had some historically corrupt senators. Some of you guys over here have probably heard of the whole David Devil 2 thing, where he lied about lying to the whole state, tried to con everybody repeatedly, would apologize, and then go back and do it again. We had senators who would actively get expelled for official misconduct, and then they would get elected again during the special election. So, we had our political fun, I would say. As for, you asked about why those things have had long-term impacts. I would say that's probably because of their controversialness, I think. I think that the more debate and argument a thing sparks, the more people are going to remember it, and the more impact it's going to have, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So going back to the conflicts that your administration had to endure, is Ridgeway the oppressor or the oppressed?
We're definitely the oppressor, I would say. I would definitely say that we're the oppressor, because both times we initiated the war. Both times it was us that we initiated it, because as you know, or as you may not know, but David Devil 2 was the aggressor. I didn't want to jump right immediately into war with Firestone. I wanted to create some kind of mutual thing that was beneficial for both of us. But once he had figured out that I wanted to do that, he was like, "No, fuck it. We're just going to go to war right away." And the Senate did. I held off on it for as long as I could, but it's not my power to decide war. So into war we went. But the second time around, I would tell you that we shouldn't have done it at all, because that was just a death knell that David Devil did on his way out. He was leaving, he had been indicted by the Justice Department for being corrupt, and so his declaration of war on Mayflower on Firestone was just meant to stir things up and make them angry, which they proceeded to cut off diplomatic ties with us. And if we come back, it's probably going to be a while before we get to talk to them again, I would say.
So you were in complete support of these conflicts, yes or no?
For the first one, I would
The
say
first one.
initially. The first one, I said I would say initially no, but as the first war went along, I became in support of it because of the benefits that it had for Ridgeway. Because we had never been to war before, we had never had to activate the national security or state security stuff that we never had to do that before. What I did not understand is that nobody actually wanted to destroy Firestone. At least I didn't. But the whole idea was to stir up activity, which it absolutely did in both communities. So I've always looked at war as this super positive thing. Because nobody's actually going to take over anybody else's community. That's not possible. It's not possible. So if we can't do that, then why are we afraid of it? You know what I mean? Why are we worried about, all that stuff when it's really just a political thing?
Sure.
The second conflict, I didn't care about it. That war was declared. We did not deploy to Firestone at all. And Mayflower, I don't believe you guys deployed to Firestone either. And I think it just ended, I think, very, very shortly after it started. So I don't even know that you can really call it a war, except for the fact that we did declare a war. So, I mean, technically it was a war, but...
Yeah. Well, here's what I can say. As a former veteran, or not a former veteran, as a veteran myself, the Mayflower was, standing beside Ridgeway. It really was. However, I would say there was definitely questions. And one of the big questions was, the cause of casualties. But I'll address that in a second. But I do want to ask, was the first and second war, you could answer these individually, but was it your endeavor or was it the legislative branch?
Well, to be clear, I'm not empowered to declare war for the Constitution. So
right, but you have political power.
Right. Yeah, so just to clarify that, though, I had to kind of explain why they did what they did. It wasn't off of some kind of instruction, but I had expressed publicly multiple times that I would be in support of such a thing, because I've always felt that, like I've said before, this is very, in real life there's actual death, which is, makes it pretty much off the hook, like out of the question in terms of whether or not you're supporting that kind of thing. Like, that's pretty terrible to support, you know what I mean? But in a game, when you're talking about the amount of activity and the fun stuff that war can generate, I had expressed to the Senate that I would be in support of doing it so long as we planned it properly and Firestone understood the reasons why, and that all of that will be worked out. You know what I mean?
Sure.
What ended up happening is the Senate took that as, well, let's just go to war right now. And who gives a crap what they think? So they declared war. I didn't deploy troops for weeks because I wanted to plan the war with Firestone properly, and make it work as the way it was supposed to. Firestone, as it turns out, isn't interested in that at all. They have no desire. Their governor at the time was convinced that she would be ousted if she tried to do that, and that there would be no way to plan out anything like that. So we just ended up deploying to their city for a day or two, and then we left.
Right.
But
so would you say that you sparked the fire in the legislative houses in Ridgeway?
Probably, yeah, I would say.
Right. So moving on, was the damage caused to Firestone property and people considered or even thought about before you may, as you said, sparked the legislative branch to push for war?
No, because that's not the way I look at war. And if I can go further into that if you want. I don't look at war that way. Not in game. I look at war as an opportunity to collaborate, to deepen relations with another state, to exercise some of the security stuff that you may not be used to doing. I look at it as an opportunity to rile up your community in a way that they usually are not. You know? I don't think of it as, in terms of the roleplay aspect of it, yeah. If we're going to go full on to that, then we have to be worried about stuff like that. But I never am. It's not about, Firestone just was not interested in doing that at all. And I did not anticipate that. And so when we tried to do it that way and they were not on board with it at all, like their governor knew what I was trying to do and supported it, but she was convinced that she could not do it that way without, being removed from office. She was convinced that everybody would turn on her if she tried to support that. Whereas where I come from, in Noosa, we planned every single war. Anytime we go to war with somebody, there was a plan. And it was, we're going to have this many battles at this location, and whoever wins this many battles, therefore wins the war. So that's what I'm used to doing,
Sure.
But, yeah.
Right. So let's just move on from these, conflicts back to the game being taken down.
Yeah.
So,
Understand? Okay, I'm on my way back to the studio.
all right, I'll continue asking questions. Is that fine?
Yes, if I can find the building.
All right.
That the community has stayed as active as it has, because what we've been seeing is that the chat is still just as active as it ever was. People are constantly talking in there. There's still widespread support among the community of the game and the developers of their success in getting things back on track. In terms of whether or not we can come back without the game, I think the answer to that question would be no. Everything that we do, we've put into that game.
Right.
So
you would say the community. You would say the community and the game is completely linked together. If that link is gone, both are gone. You would say.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
All
in
right.
time, not immediately. Like it's gonna. Obviously, I thought it was gonna take a lot shorter than this for the community to sort of separate, but it hasn't. We've stayed very close, and we're still talking. We're still in support. We're still behind them, But the question that's on your mind, I'm assuming, is, well, how long is that going to last? I don't know. It could be 2 more months. It could be until the end of the year. I don't know. We'll have to just see. But
Stan Labs, do we have any questions from the audience?
That will be a no.
All right. Do we have an audience?
We have 5 viewers. Audience, if you want to ask any questions, please ask them in the YouTube chat.
All right. Moving on. So, obviously, you guys went to war with Firestone 2 times. Can you elaborate on your position on the second war? And obviously, you were not in support of it, as I have gotten. And so,
yeah,
what made that difference from the first war? And why do you think that the first war was successful compared to the second war?
So the reason why I wasn't in support of the second one is because by that point, the senator who started it, which is Dave the Devil 2, started it for the purpose of getting the attention in the community and on the political scene away from his scandalous behavior. He had been indicted by the Justice Department on corruption charges and on official misconduct, some pretty bad stuff that he had been exposed in doing. And he threw this declaration.
He needed a boogeyman, would you say? He needed a boogeyman?
Maybe not necessarily a boogeyman, but just because it didn't scare anybody, you know what I mean? It was just
right,
hey,
but
look at this big shiny thing. We're going to war now.
Yeah, he was pointing fingers.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was. that was a big that was the, and I just thought that's not a good reason for us to do that. You know, that was when Firestone cut off relations, because during the first war I was in constant communication with their government. They understood. Hang on, damn it! Sorry, I didn't realize you were going to do that, Stan. Shit. Okay, I don't know. They're gonna kill. They're gonna kill us.
Some
Anyway.
friendly individuals. Looks like some thugs have made it into our building. Anyway, continue.
It was just
Don't let these people, make your opinion on Mayflower any worse.
No, I don't care.
I promise we have suburbs somewhere in this place.
It was just the reasons for doing it were just totally bad, totally wrong, and they didn't make any sense. The other part of your question is, look, the reason why why I don't think it was as successful as the first war is because the second war was less than 2 months apart from the first one. So for us to go to war with them, fucking like right away again that soon, I feel like it did not have the same effect, not even close, and it did not spark the same level of activity. It did not have even the effect that Senator David Devil wanted. It did not make people turn their attention away from the corruption in the Senate. It accomplished none of its goals. People were like, nope.
I did see a lot of the announcements made inside of the Firestone announcements channels. And would you say that the Second War ruined relations with Firestone?
I would say that, yeah. It'd be hard to disagree with that.
Sure, and if the game still existed, do you think it would be possible for Ridgeway to use diplomatic means to reprimand their relationship with the Firestone diplomat?
I do think so. I think so because they have a new administration now. I haven't had the chance to meet their new governor, but I think that, obviously, one of the first things that will happen when we do a new, if and when the game is back, is we're going to have elections for just about everything, and there will be a new governor, and that person will have the opportunity to do that if they want, and I think that there's a fair chance that that would succeed. I'll give you a minute while you're fighting for your life here.
Right. So yeah, I'm a little
I'm being arrested.
So, okay, continuing, what is your stance on foreign diplomacy? What was your stance on foreign diplomacy as the governor of Ridgeway when you obviously had a game to do foreign relations? And what was your stance on, other rose states such as Mayflower, Firestone, and stuff like that?
So Mayflower has always been a very good friend of ours. I know that, as you mentioned earlier, I'm handcuffed, by the way, Stan. I don't know if we can fix that.
You're just at ease. It's fine.
I'm right here. Oh, I'm invisible? That's unfortunate. Okay. Hey, anyway, I'm sorry. Cookie, can you say that again?
Right. What was your stance on foreign diplomacy when you were governor?
So our State Department was very, very active, and I supported them in their diplomacy. They appointed ambassadors. They talked with everybody that they could. We managed to pass laws that relieved my administration. Advocated for laws that ended up lowering the restrictions on the State Department as to who they were allowed to talk to. Like the original laws were set up like they had to have Senate approval before and we removed all of that so that they could talk with everyone and create ambassadors. And we had a treaty actually signed between us and Firestone of friendship and openness and everything up until that point. So obviously that's not in effect anymore. But you know what I'm saying. My stance was, I very quickly during the First War realized that my view on things was not shared at all by Firestone. And that was that I believed that we could be friends and also have a Roblox war. You know what I mean? Because it didn't need to have hate involved. You know what I mean? But they just did not see it that way. Like, we didn't have to have a goal of destruction.
Here's my thing. I think your stance on war in terms of promoting community it's a good take. It really is. But that's not how everyone else, or not. I'm sorry. That's not how everyone sees it, right? Correct. There's people who will bring hate. There's people who will, try to take down the next community that Ridgeway goes to war with. And quite frankly, there was people that says, okay, we need to go to war with Firestone because we hate them and they need to die. Right? There's obviously going to be those people. How do you base your stance with them in mind? Because quite frankly, your stance doesn't cover the broad perspective of the consequences of.
If we hold ourselves to such a strict role play, we're never going to have any fun here. So I tried to, like, Firestone had their little groups of civilians that would deploy to that, quote unquote, that came to Ridgeway during and up to the war to mess with citizens and shoot people and stuff. And Firestone was like, hey, I'm really sorry about these people. And it was like, you can't control your citizens. I don't care. They're criminals. They'll be treated as regular criminals. I don't give a crap. I'm not going to try to be like, well, because your community member said X, Y, and Z, therefore it changes the whole thing. It doesn't. Not to me. As long as I can make a positive connection with the leader of that community that this is what we intend to do, and they understand that and agree to it, the rest of it shouldn't matter as much. What happens in between? Because the whole idea is positive for both communities. How can we make them both riled up and excited about this crazy awesome thing that we get to do? But I could frame that a little better in terms of role play. For example, I could have that attitude, but have no one know that I have that attitude, and just kind of work on that from behind the scenes and work it out that way. But it's really hard for me to not tell the truth. So I'm kind of just, this is just how I see it,
Sure.
But.
So, I mean, okay. Considering Ridgeway's, complex history of, like, politics and, how long it's existed, even back to, OG Mayflower, right? Do you envision its legacy being remembered in the broader sense of, like, all Rose States communities and, yes, stuff like that? And
I do. To shut down.
LargeTitanic2? Are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Should I restate the question?
No, I heard your question. My internet's a little spotty. So.
Right. No, it's fine.
When Ridgeway was created, OG Mayflower was on its way out, and it was only a few weeks from shutting down, if you remember correctly. So we had this massive influx of Mayflower players. There was no Noahs at the time. This place didn't exist. It was Ridgeway and Firestone.
Right, not even a thought.
Yeah. So the reason why I think that we'll be remembered, at least not, I don't think for, a bazillion years. Eventually everybody grows up and does their own thing and fucking doesn't remember anything about it. But it's, in terms of like whether or not we made an impact during our time, I think we did. Ridgeway was fun because it was a synthesis of all kinds of people. Noosa and Mayflower people
Well,
And
I actually disagree with the point that people, while people may go on to do their own things, for a lot of people, Ridgeway and Mayflower is a pretty large part of their childhood. It really is. Or
good point.
and me personally, I do think that Ridgeway will be remembered. It really will. Did I cut you off?
No, nope.
All right.
Yeah.
So okay. Could you describe the political scene in Ridgeway? If there's any like political parties and stuff like that, because obviously, as you know, the majority of people watching this are from Mayflower, and don't know about the political scene in Ridgeway, and we've talked a bit about Ridgeway politics and stuff. So
Yeah. So, Ridgeway does not permit, I should say, developer oversight does not permit political parties, so we don't have any.
Right.
The Senate is 7 people elected every 4 months. They elect a president pro tempore. We don't have a House; we just have a Senate. And what we do, the political scene in Ridgeway leading up to the shutdown was we had a number of senators that basically the entire Senate was being indicted for corruption. There was a lot of official misconduct going on. There was some senators that had conspired to impeach the lieutenant governor. There was many senators that had conspired to change the law so that they would suffer less criminal penalties for the things that they were doing. There were, it was bad. And we were, if had the game not shut down, there would have been a full Senate election the next week. So there was a lot of things in the air, and there was a lot of anticipation about what next was going to be. You know what I mean? That was the political scene in Ridgeway up at the time. Basically, no one had any trust or faith in the Senate at all, including me, because they did a lot of things without my knowledge. They passed a lot of laws for malicious reasons that no one knew about, and that looked fine on the surface, and seemed harmless enough, but in reality, they were building a case and trying to subvert the public, trying to lie, which had never happened before in Ridgeway. So it was kind of a big deal. And the Justice Department in Ridgeway has, I would assume, still several pending cases to deal with if and when the game returns about those senators. So.
Sure. So you do present yourself as a pretty likable governor, and quite frankly, you are favorable to the Ridgeway community. Is that accurate?
I think my approval rating has been like 40% or something this term. I think people are ready for me to step down, but I don't think they hate me. Yeah.
Right. So, people have argued against your administration with claims of corruption and the more of the validity of some of your actions. Is there any specific controversies that you would like to address to the Mayflower public?
Well, probably the most controversial thing I've ever done is I pardoned a senator this term, and I did so because I wanted some of the activity that senator was creating to continue. Found out later.
Could you be specific to
David Devil too?
Right.
I found out later that senator was. I found out very very soon after the indictments came out against him that he was doing a lot of things that no one knew about at all, and he ultimately ended up getting expelled from the Senate anyway, and he left the community.
Do you regret giving him a pardon?
Yes, I do. Had I known the things that he was doing, would not have done it. at all.
Right.
But he was pathologically lying to a lot of people.
So could we get a little more information on what he was doing specifically?
So the senators falsified voting records when the impeachment of my lieutenant governor was coming up in order to lie to the public about who voted in favor. The impeachment failed the Senate, and he orchestrated a lie that it did not, and involved multiple senators in the corroboration of that. It was discovered later by the Department of Justice that this impeachment had failed, and they falsified the records. So everybody believing, including the lieutenant governor himself, believing that the impeachment had passed, he resigned. And so obviously huge damage to the community as a result of their actions. Huge damage. They conspired to lower the penalty of official misconduct in the state, which is the title that we use to charge public officials with doing bad things, breaking the law. We use official misconduct, and it's been a felony ever since it was created. They made it a misdemeanor, and did so as part of another law that they passed, and I didn't notice it. I thought, well, whatever, seems harmless enough. I don't really care. Not realizing that this was part of their scheme. Of course, they're stupid because it was a felony anyway, because the stuff that they were doing, they did before they changed the law. So it ended up not mattering either way. But it's just that kind of stuff that they were doing that they managed to conceal from everybody. It was just indictment after indictment after indictment against these senators that would come out and expose this deep level of betrayal of the public.
Right.
That was
so
just crazy.
Was this part in after the Second War or before? Sorry.
I don't remember. I want to say after. I'm not sure.
Right. And after. And you bailed this guy out, even though you did not like the effects.
I did.
Right. And so what, did you look into this guy's background before?
Oh yeah.
Because I'm not aware on how pardons work, and so
a pardon is for criminal offenses only, nothing else.
Right.
But I knew him for 6 years when he came to Ridgeway. I trusted him. He was a longtime friend from Noosa. I trusted that his motives were good, that his intentions were good, and that even though he was a really big troll most of the time, that his intentions and his heart was in the right place. I trusted in those things.
So you pardoned him after court conviction, right? Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and could you describe your relationship with the Ridgeway Department of Justice?
To be clear about it, the AG, right up until the moment I did it, was telling me that it was a stupid idea. I decided to trust him and do it anyway. My relationship with the DOJ is one of partners. They advise me on a lot of different things. We work together. The Attorney General is elected, so he doesn't report to me. You know what I mean? But we work together on a lot of things, and we've worked together on initiatives to bring more lawyers into the community. We're good partners. Definitely, my relationship with them was damaged when I did this.
Right.
But at the time, I felt that it was the right thing to do, and almost immediately after doing it, it was not. But
and you had good relation with the DOJ.
Yes, I continue to.
Right, yeah. And so, was the DOJ, I would say, upset or angry
Oh yes,
at the fact that
Extremely
you
so.
basically undid all of their work in, pushing for justice to this senator who had wronged the people?
Absolutely, and they were 100% justified in their complaint. Absolutely.
You admit
Yes.
that you were wrong.
I said so in my statement.
Yeah.
I said so in my statement that I was wrong and that I should not have done it.
Right.
But I'm focused on, just like with war, I focus on the long-term activity that I want to hope we can sustain. And what I was trying to do, and what the DOJ knows I was trying to do this. However, they do their job, which is that their job is the law is the law. They're not going to consider long-term activity or the makeup of the group or whether or not we need controversy. Those are all decisions for me to make.
Sure.
So I did, and looking back on it, it didn't matter anyway. Like, the pardon meant nothing because he was going to be removed anyway. He was expelled from the Senate immediately after that. And he promptly was gone. It was a matter of hours, and that was over. He was convicted, he served his time in prison, got out, pardon came down, my statement went out, and that same day the Senate got rid of him. The Senate expelled him, and he left Ridgeway completely. He released this massive document explaining how he lied to everybody and that he used my trust in him against me, and how he lied about, that I had appointed senators to appease the Justice Department, which was completely false. He was constantly playing this game of mixing lies with truth.
Sure.
To confuse you. That was always his game,
Right. So I do want to move on. So obviously, M-Span is pretty active in Ridgeway, and they are aware of the fact that you had some troubled relations with. Are you aware of the individual Zhao's Human?
Yeah, he was. Well, am I aware of the individual Zhao's Human? What a question. Well,
could you describe your relationship with him?
Zhao's Human is the third lieutenant governor of the state of Ridgeway. He ran with me on my ticket twice and was elected twice, and the Senate brought him down without a fight, without a substantial fight, because, as I said before, they lied and falsified records and altered votes to convince everyone that he was impeached already and that there was nothing anyone could do. And I didn't question that. Had I stepped in and said, no, that's bullshit, it maybe would have turned out differently. But to more directly answer your question, Zhao's a good friend of mine. I've known him for multiple years. He came with me from Noosa to Ridgeway, and we were in the transit authority together, and he...
Well, what I want to know is, what was he to the people of Ridgeway? He could be a great person to you, right?
He was a leader.
He was a leader.
He was a leader, for sure. He was an extremely hard worker, very passionate and dedicated to whatever you set in front of his plate. He had no filter at all, which was sometimes a detriment. He was righteously dedicated to whatever he was tasked with.
Sure. And so I just want to go back to the just one question on the Firestone Ridgeway situation. So obviously in the second war, the relations was much worse, and so a lot of people bashed on So a lot of people bashed on Firestone based on the fact that they avoided this war, or that they just didn't want to have another war, and a lot of people were
which I completely respect.
Right, and a lot of people are sending around the GIF that says, I'm gonna read this out. Fedora Master when someone declares war, and it's Nico Avocado, yelling.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So obviously people had some strong feelings against Firestone, right?
Yeah. Well, because part of it,
do you think they were in their right to avoid this war? And also, what's your stance on Mr. Fedora Master?
I haven't talked with him very much, to be completely honest with you. I've talked to him only a few times. I don't have much of an opinion on him as a result. Whether or not Firestone was right to avoid this war, it's an interesting question. I think whether or not Firestone was right to avoid this war is best answered by Firestone. From my perspective, I was so disappointed in the whole situation that I just didn't care at that point.
Yeah, totally.
Because they had just created, not Firestone, my Senate had just created such a terrible situation that, and we never deployed to Firestone during the Second War. We never attacked them. That never happened.
Yeah. So,
yeah, it's just a bad thing. The second one.
Sure. So, Mr. Stan, do we have any questions from the audience or from people outside?
I'm gonna go to bed here soon, so.
Alright, great. So we have 4 viewers, and they have oh wow, they have 0 questions have been asked. So.
Right. Okay. So I'll just give you one last question.
Well,
so obviously,
I can ask some questions real quick.
Yeah. Sure.
Hi, Stan.
Large, it's okay if I can kind of discuss, you held a cabinet meeting and you invited me to sit down during it.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember doing that, but I'm sure I did, because you're fun to hang out with, so.
Right, didn't say anything. Anyways, I don't know, I actually do want to ask a little bit more about your relationship with, Zhao as human.
Did you notice that I yelled at him a bunch in the cabinet meeting?
Yes, exactly. So, is it a love-hate relationship? What's going on there?
So, Zhao's one of the most loyal people, and you have to let me finish, okay?
Yeah.
Zhao's one of the most loyal people that I've ever met. He would be righteously by your side.
Could you clarify, loyal as in he'll do what you want him to do, or loyal as in
he was
right.
He would defend me to the end of the earth. He defended me to the end of the earth, which is, as you know, not always a good thing. So he also had no filter, and he would hyper focus on a lot of things that maybe were not my top priority a lot of the time. So a lot of times I was being like, Drow, you shut the fuck up. We got other shit to work on. But it was always from a place of appreciation for his work, but just a reminder that we have to have priorities. That was always what was going on. As to whether or not it was a love-hate relationship, I don't think it was, because we argued quite a lot, but we would always end up, at the end of the night, it wouldn't matter. We were still friends. Still good friends.
Right. So many supporters of your campaign, so obviously after Ridgeway shut down, many supporters of your campaign.
What?
Sorry. They might say sticking out there your gun for the Rizzler. You're so skibbity.
Please ignore that question. We do have an audience question. This one comes from the Nerdy Geek. Thoughts on the Ridgeway, the Firestone Brigadier General Dauntlefulness.
He said Ridgeway Brigadier General.
Wait, but
we don't.
Firestone.
Oh, I don't know that person, Nerdy Geek. I'm sorry.
Right. So as I was saying, they just wanted to know if they could be your Sigma. How do
Oh
you
my
feel?
god. If they no, sorry.
Right. I will make sure.
I like
that,
how you say right at the end of it because it's like
Yeah, totally. I completely understand. I will forward this to the person that sent me this message.
okay.
Right. Um, are
Yes,
you aware of the individual Police 12?
yes I am. Please 12W.
He
Right?
reminds me of your lieutenant governor.
No! I fucking hate him. Please roll. God.
Dan, I think it's gonna be okay.
Please wait. It's please roll. Oh my. Fucking king. What a bitch. Sorry.
So
Well, I think Stan's answered your question.
right. So moving on. I think we've had enough
Yeah.
for tonight. I really think. I just want to leave one message for the Mayflower public. So if you could leave a message, a final message to the people of Ridgeway, which in which their game is gone. Their game is gone. Their community is gone. As you said, the game and community are linked, and the game is gone. So, what is your last message to the community of
Yeah,
Ridgeway?
we're not done yet.
And what's a message to Mayflower as well?
My message to this is outro. I'm still talking though. Okay. My message to Mayflower is that you're on your own now if we don't come back. We are in a bad spot, and Mayflower has always been there to support us. I'm glad that Mayflower continues to be there to support us. We certainly are still here to support Mayflower. We're good friends, and I hope that we continue to be. I am hoping that you will keep us in your thoughts as we are hopefully back online soon. Thank you for having me.
And a message for Ridgeway?
I am in solidarity with Ridgeway as we are waiting to hear what is next for our community and what our future will hold. I regret that I don't have information about what's going to happen next and where we're going from here. But I stand with everybody in that community, and I hope just as much as they do that we can very soon resume enjoying the place that we love.
All right, Stan, I'm over time. Can we end this? Cut this, please. I'm gonna clock out.
Alright, we're
I want
back
to go
on
to
air.
bed.
Too bad. Back on air. We have one more viewer question from.
I'm over time.
Again, the Nerdy Geek. Large, make sure you refrain from calling the viewers Nerdy Geeks, okay?
That's the username, my dude.
Okay, whatever. His question is, real question. Do you think that the main reason Ridgeway got removed was due to the cocaine?
No, I don't. I don't. It wasn't. That wasn't the reason. Yeah, that wasn't the reason.
Right,
For sure.
That may be the reason the M-Span channel gets removed, though. So.
Oh, right.
Right.
The cocaine that we obviously have. Alright, thank you for watching. Again.
You still cannot.
Thank you. Wow. Yeah, we're off here now. Oh my god. Yeah, that was terrible.